Lisa here with Culture Engineered, and today we're talking about how to have difficult conversations with your employees around performance. Today we're giving you 7 steps on making this a more valuable, effective conversation around the employee's performance so that you can see the positive benefits of a happy workforce in your organization. So let's get started. So the first step of the 7 steps in having an effective performance conversation with your employee is to do your research. And the main reason behind this is how you approach this conversation, if it's a one-off versus a trend, is very different. If it's a one-off, we all make mistakes, and unfortunately some mistakes are way more severe than others. So if it's a one-off, it's simply coming about saying, hey, this is what this was a big mistake. I get it, we have off days, but how can we make sure that this doesn't happen in such a serious way moving forward? It's a pretty cut and dry conversation. Don't beat them up about it. It was a mistake, a bad mistake, but a mistake. Whereas a performance issue tends to be more of a trend. This is something that it comes up maybe in a variety of ways. Let's say like it could be a communication issue. Maybe they don't communicate effectively. So you can see how that would impact relationships with coworkers, and it would, prevent them often from meeting deadlines, and they're not asking for help in an effective way from people that could really help to overcome challenges. So a performance issue around effective communication could surface in a variety of ways, but really it comes down to an issue with communication. That would be a really important trend to identify when you sit down with the employee and have some specifics to really, not beat them up over it, but to really, articulate the point you're trying to make and how this issue is coming up in a variety of ways and really impacting their ability to succeed and your business's performance. The second step is meet with the employee privately. So there are some occasions you might choose to have a third party present, and it should be a neutral person. So maybe an HR person, maybe it's your boss. You don't want to have this in a public setting for 2 reasons. You want them to be vulnerable. You don't want them to just tell you what you want to hear. You need them to be vulnerable and open up and share with you why they're experiencing these challenges, because that leads to better and more effective solutions to be determined. The second reason privacy is really important is, again, the respect to that employee, understanding that it's not something you reward in public and you discipline in private. So this is really a conversation that you should be having in private. Even if your intention is not to discipline them, it's really to talk about something that is an unpleasant matter. So make it a private one. The third step then is to discuss the concern. So this a lot of times it will be done in one of 2 ways. You can open up this conversation and say, do you know why I wanted to meet with you today? This is a great starting point, because if the performance issue is severe enough, they might be aware as to why. Yes, I miss deadlines all the time. Yes, this employee is upset with me. So they might be aware of why you want to meet with them, and it's always best to have them say it versus you, if that understanding, if that knowledge and awareness is there. So give them the opportunity. If, however, they say, no, I don't know why you wanted to meet with me today, or no, I'm not really sure, share your concern of, I've been noticing an issue. You want to ease into it, use their verbal and visual cues to determine how granular you get in this conversation. If they start getting upset, maybe I've been in conversations where you can see their heart racing, or you can see them starting to sweat, or maybe they're starting to shut down. Then you want to kind of ease back, figure out what's going on, maybe ask them a question. Does this sound familiar, or is this making more sense? Bring them back into that conversation. Don't just talk at them. You really want to engage them in the conversation. Also, don't restate the issues over and over unless they say, I don't understand. Again, that can feel like salt in the wound sometimes. So you just want to use it as a conversation and really tailor it to how you're reading them in the situation. And then step number 4 is ask, don't tell. So you outline the concerns, or they did for you, and your next step in this conversation is to ask why. So why do you think, Chris, why do you think this continues to be an issue, Chris? Chris, what do you think is the root cause here? What do you think is leading to you to, fail to meet these expectations? Whatever it might be, ask them and stop talking. Give them a moment to answer. This is super important. Give them a moment to answer. You can throw out suggestions, but they need to identify the issue at hand. Don't let them off the hook. Continue to hold them accountable to giving you an answer, identifying what that is. Step number 5 is then collaborate on a solution. Identify and validate the solution or the issue that they provide, and then work together, collaborate on a potential solution on how to resolve that. Okay, I see, that is different. You do have people reporting to you now. Or you know what, these people used to report to you and now they are your peers. I can see how that would be a challenge. Let's figure out some ways, so-and-so went through that same transition in our place, and I remember they had that issue. Do you feel it would help you in talking with them about how to overcome those challenges? Or do you feel that a training would be helpful on, moving, being promoted within an organization? That can be a really big challenge. So ask them if that would work, because again, you should come to a mutual decision on how to solve for the problem that they've identified. So step number 6 is more about getting buy-in by fleshing out concerns. Actually expressing concerns is a great thing to happen, because that is good for 2 reasons. 1, it shows they trust you, and 2, it shows that they're planning on being better. They're really buying in and getting accountable to the result, which is to improve their performance. So having them express concerns is, although many leaders think this is a negative sign, they're just trying to shoot it down, encourage them to express concerns. Be more concerned about someone who just yes ma'ams or yes sirs you out of the situation. Yep, sounds good. Yep. Really guide them through some concerns. So for example, if you say a training is maybe a solution you guys agree upon. Say, so what concerns do you have? If they say nothing, say, I know you have a pretty heavy workload. Are you concerned at all about how to add training into your already, hectic workload? Are you concerned that maybe, this training won't solve for your issue in communicating effectively with this person? Are you concerned about getting some pushback? Whatever it is, start asking them about some concerns and work through those so that you can diffuse them and solve for those together as well. And then the 7th step, and very important, although often forgotten, is follow up. So you guys determined a great solution. Now you need to follow up to make sure it's working. And if it is working, meaning the performance issue goes away and disappears, celebrate that. Or if the issue does not go away, then address that as well. Hey, I noticed that this issue is still persisting. What do you think is the reason? And then go back to the same steps we did before. There will be some times when it's just not solvable. Maybe this is just too big of a performance gap. And so at that point, you either decide to modify the job, or maybe the person's just not right for the job. But at least you went through the process and truly identified whether or not the issue could be resolved in a timely manner or not. And that's a decision every leader has to make. But we have to make it at the right time and the right way. You can't just burn through people and not work to support them in the way they need in order to be successful. So hopefully this helps you get started with more effective communication around performance issues in your workplace. If you need additional help, reach out to Culture Engineered. Otherwise, join us next week when we talk about another type of difficult discussion to have with employees, behavioral issues. See you next week.